This is Al Jazeera.
Welcome to the News Hour. I'm Dareen Abu Ghaida in Doha with your top stories. Dozens killed in Iraq in an upsurge in violence between anti-government protesters and security forces. Fears Syria's conflict is spilling over into Lebanon and threatening the country's fragile stability. France becomes the 14th country to legalize same-sex marriage.
I'm Florence Louis in Sarawak, Malaysia, and I'll be telling you how an old-fashioned broadcast technology is expected to make an impact in the country's next general election.
Hello. Iraq has seen its bloodiest day since Sunni Muslims started staging mass protests in December. At least 30 people were killed on Tuesday, 10 in a mortar attack at a Sunni mosque. That happened in the town of Al-Muqtadiyya. And at least another 20 were killed after Iraqi soldiers raided a Sunni camp in Al-Hawija near Kirkuk. Protesters are demanding an end to what they say is discrimination by the Shia-led government. Omar Al-Saleh reports.
There is no God but Allah, these protesters shout as they carry their dead. They are angry and accuse government forces of killing dozens of protesters and arresting over 50 others in the town of Hawija. They say soldiers stormed their sit-in early on Tuesday. Government forces began surrounding the center of the protest on Friday after a soldier was killed. The government says armed men among the protesters did the killing and demanded that the organizers of the sit-in turn them in. But protesters deny the government's claim. They say it's an attempt to end the popular anti-government protests that have been going on in Iraq's Sunni provinces for more than 4 months. They accuse the Shia-led government of Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki of discrimination and of marginalizing the Sunni population.
If government security forces enter towns, they will create sectarianism. We call upon the government to withdraw the army from the cities.
This is not the first time that government troops have killed protesters. They've done so in Fallujah and Mosul. The Hawija attack was met with anger and defiance in other Sunni areas. In Samarra, hundreds turned out denouncing the government. This tribal sheikh has vowed to form an army of tribesmen from Sunni provinces to protect their protests and areas. This latest escalation could damage Iraq's already fragile security and political power-sharing arrangements. Omar Al-Saleh, Al Jazeera.
Ahmed Ali is a political analyst on Iraq with the Institute for the Study of War. That's a public policy research organization, and he says the fighting could get much worse.
I think it's a very dangerous escalation, especially between the protesters and the Iraqi government.
Well, fears are growing that Lebanon is being drawn further into the Syrian conflict. Fighting around the border town of Al-Qusayr is intensifying. Syrian rebels say fighters from the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah are involved. From Lebanon, Huda Abdelhamid reports.
It was 9:15 in the morning when a rocket slammed into the roof of Ali Shammas's house. He has no doubt it was fired from across the border in Syria.
The French Parliament has approved the same-sex marriage bill. The National Assembly passed the law which allows gay couples to marry and adopt children. There have been widespread protests both for and against the bill in recent weeks. Jackie Rowland reports from Paris.
Members of France's gay community celebrate what they see as a major step forward in their civil rights. The passage of this law was never in doubt. The ruling socialists have a big majority in the National Assembly.
Here with the Al Jazeera Newshour, much more to come, including the world's technology darling posts its latest earnings, but just how rosy is Apple's future? Plus, why homeschooling your child in Germany could land you in prison. And coming up in sports, Spanish giants Barcelona get taught a German lesson in the Champions League. Andy will give you that story a little later. But first, the U.S. Secretary of State is due to host a meeting between the Afghan president and Pakistani officials on Wednesday. John Kerry is trying to get the Afghan leadership to reach a settlement with the Taliban. And with U.S. soldiers set to leave at the end of next year, there is pressure to create stability on the ground, as Rosalind Jordan reports.